right here, right now, though we do have some breaking news, because while it is about celebration, it is also now about policy. Let's go to our senior White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. And Jim, the president watching that parade, getting ready to come to the balls, but stopping in between to do some business.
That's right, Aaron. President Trump went right to work. He went right into the Oval Office shortly after he departed from the reviewing stand after that inaugural parade. And he signed the commissions for General James Mattis, retired General James Mattis, to be the new Defense Secretary, and retired General John Kelly to be the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary. In addition to that, Aaron, and you're seeing a picture there right now on screen, tweeted by the new Press Secretary, Sean Spicer, President Trump also signed an executive order, and get this, there aren't many details to it, that quote unquote is to direct agencies to ease the burden of Obamacare. That is all we know at this point from the White House when it comes to that executive order, that the directive to agencies of the federal government is to ease the burden of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, the signature legislative achievement of former President Barack Obama. Now, what we understand is going to take place here in the next several minutes is that General Mattis will be sworn in as Defense Secretary. And then I think at that point, Aaron, you should start to see the President and First Lady show up at some of these balls later on tonight, Aaron.
All right, thanks very much to you, Jim Acosta. And now, what does all this mean when you talk about these orders, these memos? Let's go to Jake Tapper and his panel to get some more on that. Jake.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Well, let's start with David Axelrod. And David, the idea that one of his first executive actions would be to ease the burden of Obamacare as the transition takes place. I suppose it's not a surprise. This was one of his primary...
And also one of the first initiatives of the Congress, but theirs has yet to be defined, and we need to see what this order is, because I think they want to suggest they're going to ease the burden of Obamacare, but they don't want to alarm people, millions and millions of people who have been the beneficiaries of Obamacare, that they're going to be eased out of those out of that program. So it'll be interesting to see if there's actual teeth to this order, or whether it is for purposes of signifying that he is at one with this effort to repeal Obamacare.
I know one of our reporters in there, just to add a little bit more information. Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary, announced this, read the quote that President Trump would be signing these executive orders, one making Mattis Secretary of Defense, one making General Kelly Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and then this executive order on Obamacare, quote, to ease the burden of Obamacare as we transition from repeal to replace. And the press asked, what does that mean? Sean Spicer did not respond, and instead called the pool into their first spray in the White House, which is where you saw President Trump in the Oval Office signing these documents. So just
yeah, Jake, I mean, I think the reality of the situation is that it is not easy to do what they say they want to do, which is essentially to keep all of the things that people like about the Affordable Care Act and yet repeal it, and put it back together again in a way that preserves those features, keeping people with pre-existing conditions, keeping those people with 20 million covered, kids under 26, and all the features that people like. And there's a reason why they haven't moved quickly with a replacement proposal.
Well, you know, they have promised repeatedly that they would not pull the rug out from under anyone. And I think maybe what we're going to see in this executive order is a way to kind of let people know that things won't change until X, if so-and-so is approved, or maybe they can do something on the regulatory side. It's, you know, obviously this is something Congress has to deal with, but I think they're reading between the lines here. They may be trying to do something to assuage.
I'll give you an example of something that's controversial.
One second. I'm going to let you talk, but I just want to show you this the picture, and that is retired General James Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, being sworn in as the Secretary of Defense, and you see you see Vice President Pence holding the Bible there, that photograph just having been released. I'm sorry, Senator Santorum.
No, I mean, one example of that is having to do with deductibles. There's a very key provision that that the government helps to pays insurance companies to underwrite the cost of these ever increasing deductibles. It's in the law, but Congress has never funded it, and Obama has always funded it to provide that support. I can't imagine that one of the things that President Trump is going to do if you look at the people who get that money, it's his voters. I mean, it's working
Exactly.
class folks, and so now that could be that provision. I don't know if it is, but I'm saying that's an example of many of the bells and whistles that are attached to Obamacare that you've got to sort of leave in place until you have something to be able to replace it.
And they probably want to do something to make sure that the insurance industry is okay, so that people are not
There are
afraid.
how many states? 17 states with only one insurance company right now?
Exactly. So that they want to make sure that people are not going to lose their insurance
Let me just-
no matter what Congress passes.
That's right.
No, I was going to say, I think that whether there's probably a limited amount that he can do with an executive order. It's going to have to be done by the Congress.
Sure.
But it's significant that it was the first executive order. I think he's sending a
Here's
very
so
clear
let's listen
message.
in. Here's video from the Oval Office.
All right. So first we're going to sign the commissions of Madison, General Madison, General Kelly.
You guys look good. Wow. Okay, this is for General Mattis. It was approved today, as you know. Where would you like that?
Right, right here.
Okay?
Next we'll do General Kelly. We'll take a different pen. Next is an executive order minimizing the economic burden of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act pending repeal.
Okay?
All right.
That's
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a great day.
Look forward to seeing you all
So there we
tomorrow.
have President Trump signing his first signings at the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, signing his Secretary of Defense into office, signing his Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security into office, and then some executive action that we are not sure what it does or what it is that is supposed to ease the burden as Obamacare is repealed and replaced. If anybody at the White House is watching, it'd be great if you could inform us as to what exactly this executive
this
action
is my
is. We'd
point.
love to report on what exactly it is.
Here's my point. In any hierarchy, you have people like Axelrod who are in the hierarchy. I was in the lowarchy, okay? I was a worker bee. You can't do stuff like that. If you just put some general thing out there with no guidance, it actually hurts the staff because people don't know what to do. And so this is somebody who's just a worker bee guy who was in the White House trying to do a good job every day. The executive orders are everything to you. And so to do some kind of symbolic, interesting, I'm playing to the base, do a press release, do a speech. Don't do an executive order that's going to. You have 1 million employees in the federal government, and you need more.
But can I just say one thing, Senator? Because Senator Santorum, you're an opponent of Obamacare, but you also have expressed bafflement, if I may.
That's a word I have expressed.
I believe it is. You've expressed a bafflement that the Republicans in Congress were not better prepared for this moment when obviously this was going to happen. That Obamacare would be repealed and replaced.
Yeah, no, and they're still working on that up on Capitol Hill. I've been up and talking to folks up there, and they still don't have a plan. And I think one of the reasons is ultimately it's not going to be a plan. Ultimately, it's going to be a series of steps. But one of the things they don't want is a comprehensive plan here in Washington, D.C. So it makes it really hard to take something that is a comprehensive plan and do it piece by piece. And that's why it's so difficult.
We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to go back to some of the inaugural ball. Stay with us. This is CNN's live coverage of the inauguration of President Trump.